The knowledge gap hypothesis. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Dear students, I hope you are doing well, inshallah. Today we are going to talk about something about the knowledge gap hypothesis. Knowledge gap is a theory, is a proposition, is a concept that was given by Donohue, O'Line, and Technor. They gave the idea of knowledge gap and they defined it as systematic differences in knowledge between better informed and less informed segments of a population. This is how they defined the knowledge gap. What does it mean? That there is a gap, a systematic difference between and the difference regarding knowledge between well informed and less informed portions of the population of any society. They believe that as the infusion of mass media information into a social system increases, segments of the population with higher socio-economic status tend to acquire this information at a faster rate than the lower status segments, so that the gap in knowledge between these two segments with the passage of time increase rather than decrease. So basically what is knowledge gap is all about. This is a concept, this is a theory that these three scholars proposed from University of Minnesota. They believe that there is a knowledge gap in every society between well informed people and less informed people, and this gap with the passage of time increases. And why that gap increases between these two segments is because of the infusion of mass media information. I mean, according to their belief and claim, the higher socioeconomic status people, they acquire more and faster knowledge and information as compared to the people of lower status, socioeconomic status. They gave this explanation in the form of a chart which is in front of you in your book and the reading material that I have shared with you. With the passage of time, this gap widens, and this gap widens because the higher socio-economic status people, they have some better qualities, or you can say better facilities, because of which they acquire knowledge and information faster than the low socioeconomic status people. This hypothesis predicts that people of both low and high socioeconomic status will gain in knowledge because of the additional information, but that person of higher socioeconomic status will gain more. This is the crux and key point. And what is the key point? That yes, both the kind of people will gain knowledge, but with the passage of time, the level of the knowledge gained by the higher socioeconomic people will be greater than the knowledge level of lower or low socioeconomic status people. Okay, now if we try to elaborate and talk more about this operational form of hypothesis, we find out that over time acquisition of knowledge of a heavily publicized topic will proceed at a faster rate among a better educated person than among those with less education. What does it mean? That the acquisition of knowledge of highly publicized topic will proceed at a faster level. I mean, those people who are well educated, who are already, I mean, having some kind of degrees, having some kind of knowledge, or having some kind of experience with the knowledgeable people, or sitting and socialization with the knowledgeable people, they would tend to acquire more knowledge regarding highly publicized topic, problem, or issues as compared to those who have less education. How can we understand it? I mean, suppose um, um, let's say we talk about Kalabagh Dam issue. I mean, if media personals, they come and talk about the Kalabagh Dam issue, the energy crisis in Pakistan, they would come on television screens, they would write editorials, columns, features, and they would talk about this issue. Do you think that a person who has never gone to school and who is a taxi driver, or a daily wager person in some remote areas of Balochistan, Sindh, Punjab, he would have the same kind of knowledge about Kalabagh Dam as the knowledge would be with the person who has matric degree, or the person who is the political scientist, or the person who is a journalist and who is talking about this issue? So all these three different kinds of people to talk with, I mean, to start with, these three people would have a different kind of knowledge about this particular issue of Kalabagh Dam, you know. And what to talk about that person who is a political analyst? What to talk about a person who is a sociologist? What to talk about a person who is a politician? What to talk about a person who is a bureaucrat? I mean, these people have huge amount of knowledge, and they know all the, even smaller bits of knowledge regarding Kalabagh Dam. I mean, a layman would have heard the name of Kalabagh Dam, and maybe he would have heard that the Kalabagh Dam is an issue. But what is that issue? What is happening? Where is Kalabagh Dam? Where is Kalabagh actually? I mean, there will be people who would not know even that this is the name of a place. I mean, they may understand that this is only dam's name, which is not being constructed. So what I'm trying to tell you is that even the highly publicized issues, the topics, on those topics and issues, the knowledge level of an educated person would be different and higher than the knowledge level of a poor person. But the condition is highly publicized topic. Secondly, second important point, I mean, here where media comes, media would tend to increase the knowledge of obviously the educated person. I mean, if an editorial or a column or a feature is written in a newspaper, what kind of benefit a daily wager can get it from? What kind of knowledge the taxi driver can gain it from? So what I'm trying to tell you is that the according to this theory, the highly publicized issues, knowledge about these issues would be greater of a person who has higher education level as compared to the less education level person. Again, the media, when it is disseminating information, it would cater the highly educated persons as compared to the less educated people. Secondly, On the next step, if we say at a given point in time, first we talked about highly publicized topic. Now we are talking about at a given point of time, there should be a higher correlation between acquisition of knowledge and education for topics highly publicized in the media than for topics less highly publicized topic. Now, here we need to understand that at a particular point, for instance, when there was corona disease hype in the media, at that particular time, the knowledge level of the highly educated people and the less educated people would not be that much different. I mean, there will be a correlation. I mean, there could be some other reasons because of which the knowledge level can come down and the knowledge level can come up. But apparently, at a particular time, the specific time frame when that issue erupted, I mean, when that corona pandemic issue erupted, I mean, the whole world has more or less the same knowledge about that issue, but there was not much different. So if an issue is a highly publicized issue and it is concerned with the whole public, the gap would be not as much as would in other forms of issues. So possible reasons, what can be the possible reasons for a knowledge gap? I mean, different communication skills, already stored information or the background information, your social context, selective exposure, acceptance, retention, and the fifth one is system of mass media. You know, these 5 things, guys, because of these 5 things, the knowledge gap, the knowledge level can be different between different people. I mean, suppose the communication skill of a university student are better than the communication skills of let's say let's not take that example. I would say that the communication skills of a student of university in Islamabad would be better than, I'm just giving an hypothetical proposition here. I'm assuming that the communication skills of a student who is studying in Islamabad University would be better than the communication skills of a student who is studying in let's say in Balochistan University. Now, what does that mean? I mean, if even in our class, I mean, you can say around you there are people who are from different parts of country, and even people are from other countries also. I mean, you see that all of them, they do not speak English, they do not speak Urdu, they do not speak Pashto, they do not speak Punjabi at equal levels. Their communication skills and then listening skills, initially I was talking about speaking skills. What about listening skills? Everybody is not getting the information the same way the other people are getting, despite the fact the teacher is the same. Similarly, the stored information, I mean, if you have already an some information about Kalabagh Dam, then if somebody who is talking about that issue from radio, newspaper or television, so your information level would increase more than the person who has less information or no information about Kalabagh Dam before that. Similarly, social context, people who are living in big cities, urban areas, they have social context. What does that mean? I mean, the person among you who has contact with the media persons, they would be having more information and rapid information as compared to the your own relatives living in your hometowns, in backward areas, in rural areas, regarding some latest issues. For instance, you would have observed during that pandemic, corona pandemic, um, uh, the information, I mean, people who are sitting in the smaller towns, they were contacting media, they were contacting people, they were contacting their relatives or the known ones who are sitting in the rural area, urban areas, the well equipped areas, well settled areas, for updated, latest and modern and authentic information. So social contexts do help increase in knowledge level. And similarly, selective exposure, acceptance and retention, this is the fourth point. um, you can understand this point, like for instance, our knowledge level regarding our fellow Christian citizens, we might not have same knowledge about them. I mean, either you do not want to know about it, either you never came across any Christian friend, or sometime it happens you came across some information but you don't care about it. I mean, how they pray, what they pray, what is the rituals, their religious rituals. So either similarly, I mean, you are a male student, for instance, and you do not want to know what are the eyelashes. I mean, maybe you do not care about that. So this is your selective exposure. You do not want to know about it. Okay, for instance, you have known about it, and after your exposure, you do not want to keep that information in your mind. As simple as that. So either you don't accept it, either you don't have exposure, or you don't accept it, or you do not want to retain it. In these three steps, what you are doing, you are gaining a particular kind of knowledge, and there are people who are exposed to latest information, they are accepting that information and they are retaining that information. So your knowledge level, I mean, a female student who watched, read or listened to the eyelashes, and she accepted it, she found it interesting, and then she retained that information in her mind. So as a male student who did not get exposed to that information, or who did not accepted that information, or who did not retain that information, his knowledge level is lesser than the knowledge level of a female student who got exposed, who got accepted, and who got retained that information. Similarly, the system of media, I mean, people sitting in rural areas of Sindh and Balochistan who have only access to for say PTV, can they have same kind of information level, even if they are educated, even if they are having good communication skills, if they have already stored information, and if they are ready to get information, and if they are willing to get information, but if they do not have access to the sophisticated social media, electronic media or modern media systems, they cannot have the same kind of knowledge level as the people who have the better social media system with them. So guys, this is the main thrust, you can say, or the main concept given by Donohue, Oline and Ticknor in 1970s and 80s. They gave this idea of knowledge gap hypothesis, but then they conducted some research, and I would give you task on that, what was that research, and we will talk about it later. After there was some criticism, and then they refined that information, and they proposed a refined hypothesis. And what does that refined hypothesis say? According to them, when there is perceived conflict over a local issue, the knowledge gap is likely to decline. When there is a perceived conflict over a local issue, the knowledge gap is likely to decline. I mean, if there is some problem, there is some issue, there is some incident or event at local level which is concern to people, then the knowledge level would be lower as compared to the issues which are, suppose you can say this is the proximity. Okay, I mean, if a thing is happening in my whereabouts, I would be more knowledgeable about that as compared to the things which are not in my whereabouts or happening far away from my area. Similarly, widening knowledge gaps are more likely to occur in the pluralistic communities with numerous sources of information than homogeneous communities with informal but common communication channels. What does that mean? It means that the knowledge level would increase in societies where people have different kinds of information levels or information sources. And why is that so? Such kind of societies, they are called as pluralistic societies, where they have different kind of options. I mean, we do have 40-50 news channels working in Pakistan. So people who are listening and watching to the Geo News, they would have particular kind of knowledge regarding the performance of Sindh government, the performance of KPK government, the performance of Punjab government, the performance of federal government regarding the coronavirus and the remedies that these governments are producing and developing for the public. The same issues are being discussed differently in ARY news channel. So the audience of the ARY news channel would have different kind of knowledge level, and they would have the Geo audience would have different knowledge level. But suppose if we had only PTV, just imagine if we had only PTV in Pakistan and you are the viewer of PTV only, would there be any change of opinion? I mean, would there be any kind of difference of opinion? I mean, then there will be all is well. Then there will be a smooth sail. I mean, everybody would be talking about the same thing. So all the viewers who are watching television, PTV, Pakistan Television Network, they would have same kind of information. And then the third point is, when an issue has immediate and strong local impact, the knowledge gap is likely to decline. I hope we have already talked about these things. Then another important aspect that we should understand about this knowledge gap hypothesis is that technology has something to do in the knowledge gap. According to the knowledge gap hypothesis, new technology results in widening the gap or narrowing it. This is the question. There are different studies regarding this question. One is conducted in Stanford, Internet Use and Gender Gap, 2000, and then there was a study conducted in Switzerland, Swiss study of internet use in 2002. So a survey on attitude concerning the new communication technology found out that only a small percentage of people will be able to afford their these new communication devices, a majority 57% of the sample answered either agree or strongly agree for that statement. What this statement is all about? This statement is attitudes concerning the new technology, new communication technology. I mean, the statement was, again, only a small percentage of people will be able to afford these new communication devices. So it's not very astonishing result that the majority of the people agreed that only the people who can afford, I mean the people who are socio-economically strong, they can only afford this technology, and when they will afford that technology, their knowledge level would be greater than the people who could not afford that technology. People of high socioeconomic status will have more access to the new technology than people of low socioeconomic status. So this would be the result. And then there is a phenomena called digital divide. What is digital divide? As the name suggests, that the people who have high socioeconomic status, they would have better chances to access the digital technology, the new technology, as compared to the people who are low socioeconomic status people. They would have less chances, they would not be affording to get that new technology. So there will be a digital divide. The haves of digital technology and the have-nots of digital technology. Same kind of things came from Swiss study of internet use, and they suggested that educational gap in internet access increased between 1997 to 2000. Wow. Now this is again an evidence that the educational gap in internet access increased between these 4 years. People of higher education use internet as a tool, while people of lower education use internet as an entertainment. I mean, this is the story of the underdeveloped countries. I mean, yes, you see Android phones, even the uneducated people, they are not using their mobile phones for for education, for research, just like you guys are doing right now. But there are people who are using these Android phones just for fun. They are watching movies, they are listening and watching the watchable songs, I mean, they even though they have that digital technology, but they are not getting it, they are not using it, they are not getting benefit out of it in terms of education. So the educational gap is increasing. This is the finding of Swiss study. And then Stanford study of internet use, they believe that once people are connected to the net, they hardly differ on how much they use it and what they use it for, except for a drop off at age 65 and a faint hint of gender gap. So there is some criticism on this hypothesis also. I mean, Darwin in 1980s, there was a prominent point in this criticism, and that is the hypothesis is based on traditional paradigm. Communication campaigns should be user oriented, and again they said that this is the blaming the victim syndrome. Broadly speaking, the hypothesis was criticized because the critics believed that this hypothesis, this theory, is based on a research which is a traditional paradigm. And what is that? The paradigm is media is active, people are passive, media is at the giving end and the people are at the receiving end, and You see, people believe that media does something, media do something, and people have to act or react. So basically this was the kind of criticism on this knowledge gap hypothesis. I hope you would have you guys would have some kind of clear idea about this knowledge gap hypothesis, and I would share some material, and you would read it out, and then you would have more clear idea about it, and then we can talk about it later in further details, inshallah.